Are you looking for the best meat slicer? In this video we will look at some of the best meat slicer on the market. Before we get started with our video,
we have included links in the description, so make sure you check those out to see which one is in your budget range.
Number 1. OSTBA Meat Slicer. I made to put this meat slicer through its paces. I tried everything from deli meat to brisket to see if this slicer held up its end of the bargain. This electric meat slicer cleanly sliced through everything that I threw at it. I was even able to slice some semi-frozen meat, proving that both the blade and the motor were up to the challenge. Just to make sure that this meat slicer was versatile, I also tried slicing cheeses and vegetables, and it cut through these too, without any issue. In fact, the only problem that I do have with this meat slicer is that it is too close to the counter. As a result, you can't slide a plate or dish to catch the meat that is being sliced. I also like that you can adjust the thickness of the slices on this food slicer. It can go all the way from thin slices to 15mm slices. Not only does this mean that you get the exact thickness that you want, but you are also able to cut a whole variety of meat, cheese, and veg with this meat slicer. One of the most daunting aspects of slicing meat with a meat slicer is the sharp moving blades. Fortunately, this meat slicer comes with excellent safety features. One of the things that makes this model the best meat slicer is that you have to press 2 buttons at the same time to make it work. Number 2. Anescra Meat Slicer. One of the reasons that this is one of the best meat slicers on the market is that you get 2 blades for the price of one. While I have found that a serrated blade does well for most kinds of meat, a smooth meat slicer blade works well for thicker cuts. So, I can choose the blade that will best go with the food that I am trying to slice. Due to this, not only is it easier to slice meat with this model, but it is just as easy to work your way through cheese, bread, and veggies too. This electric meat slicer allows you to cut slices up to 15mm thick. You can also get those very thin slices that work beautifully with sandwiches. Not only do you get to choose the thickness on this meat slicer, but the thickness style is also really easy to manipulate, right down to the millimeter, improving the accuracy of your slices. The motor on this electric meat slicer is pretty impressive, making it a great meat slicer for home use. From thicker cuts of raw meat to even vegetables, you will have no problem getting through most food items. After examining this meat slicer and comparing it to other models, I have to say that it is made from high quality materials. It is all aluminium and stainless steel with very little plastic. Due to this is a kind of electric meat slicer that is going to last you a while, even with regular use. Number 3. Beswood Electric Meat Slicer. If you find other meat slicers for home use lacking, then you need a commercial slicer. Well, this is precisely where the Beswood meat slicer comes into play. Not only does it have a high torque motor, but it is also equipped with a well-made, sharp blade. This means that it can cut frozen meat, large slabs of meat like deer and venison, and a whole lot more. If you need a food slicer that can do it all, then this is the one for you. Of course, you should bear in mind that this meat slicer is quite an investment, so it only really makes sense if you need it for heavy-duty meat slicing. One of the reasons this is one of the best meat slicers around has to do with the quality. Everything is made from aluminium, ensuring that this is a meat slicer that is going to last you a while. Even the blade doesn't need to be sharpened as it maintains its edge beautifully. My only complaint about the design is that you need to take it apart piece by piece if you want to clean it properly. This can be a bit annoying. Number 4. Chefman Electric Meat Slicer. Considering the price point, I was surprised at how well this electric meat slicer was able to cut through most meat. From deli meat to cheeses, this food slicer will cut through it without any issue at all. Of course, considering the motor power, there are some exceptions here. So, if you want to cut through frozen or tougher meats, then this meat slicer may not be good enough for you. Now, you can adjust the thickness of this meat slicer fairly easily too. For the most part, you do get slices that are in relative thickness to the setting. That being said, the adjuster is not very accurate, so you can get slices that are thicker or thinner than you intended. Many of the components of this meat slicer are made of plastic, and I was a bit concerned about this. However, Even after I had been using this food slicer for a while, all of the parts continued to be in pristine condition. I didn't notice any wear or tear on them at all. I love that the overall design of this meat slicer has been set up so that it is safe to use. Not only do you have the blade guard, but even when feeding the meat into the blade, the slicer is designed so that your hands are kept away from the blade. Number 5. Elite Gourmet Meat Slicer. This meat slicer is pretty straightforward to use. It is just a matter of adjusting the dial to your desired thickness and flipping the switch. Even if you have never used a food slicer before, you will find this make and model an absolute breeze to use. I like that you can cut meat into slices that are around 1/2 inch thick. This makes it great for everything from sandwiches to plating other kinds of meat. The only real complaint that I have with this meat slicer is that it isn't great for slicing really thin slices of meat. Set the thickness to too thin and the blade will end up shredding the meat. This isn't exactly a budget food slicer, but it is quite affordable. Due to this, it is a good option for anyone who wants a meat slicer to use occasionally but doesn't necessarily want to invest in one. Despite being a cheaper model, this food slicer is made from good quality components and provides an impressive slicing experience. One of my favorite design elements of this meat slicer is that it has a little platform for the meat and food to drop onto after it has been sliced. This isn't something that you find even with more expensive electric meat slicers, so this is a really nice touch.